Beatles were one thing, the Rolling Stones were another, we are something else. Really.
Well, all right, so we all know what the Beatles were. I mean, some of us know what the Rolling Stones...
Yeah, they turn it into...
Marc Bolan lived fast, burned bright, and left the world far too soon. From the heights of his stardom to his heartbreaking end, there were hidden struggles, shadows of pain, and choices that caused him to go down a dangerous path. What really led to the tragic demise of the iconic rock musician? Join us as we uncover tragic details that mark the chaotic life of Marc Bolan. Marc Bolan, who was born as Marc Feld on the last day of September in 1947, came into the world at Hackney Hospital in East London. He grew up not far from there, at 25 Stoke Newington Common, in the borough of Hackney. He was the second child in the family. His father, Simeon Feld, known to most as Sid, worked as a cosmetic salesman and had earlier spent time as a lorry driver. His mother, Phyllis Winifred Atkins, came from Fulham in London and made her living running a stall at the busy Berwick Street Market in Soho. Life in Hackney was simple, but it shaped Bolan in many ways. Later, the family moved to Wimbledon in the southwest part of London. It was there that young Marc Feld became fascinated by the raw sounds of early rock and roll. He developed a deep love for the music of legends like Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran, Arthur Crudup, and Chuck Berry. Often, he could be found spending hours in the lively coffee bars around Soho, especially the famous Two Eyes Coffee Bar, soaking in the electric atmosphere and dreaming of becoming a star himself. Bolan attended North Wold Primary School in Upper Clapton. It was during this time that something life-changing happened. At the age of 9, he received his first guitar, and from that moment, his passion for music only grew stronger. He eagerly began a skiffle band and even played guitar in a small group called Susie and the Hula Hoops, where the singer was none other than a young Helen Shapiro, who was just 12 at the time. Bolan would often take his guitar to school and play for his friends during lunch breaks in the playground, gathering small crowds who were drawn to his early charm and musical energy. However, his time in school did not last long. By the age of 15, he was expelled after a run-in with school authority. He stood up to the punishment in a way that showed the defiant streak that would later define his career. As a teenager trying to find his place in the world, Bolan took small steps into the world of entertainment. He landed a small role as an extra in a TV show called Orlando, where he played a mod character. Around the same time, he briefly joined a modeling agency and became a face for the menswear shop John Temple. He appeared in their catalog, and his image was even used for life-sized cardboard displays in shop windows. In 1962, a magazine called Town featured him under his real name, Marc Feld, in a photo spread about the growing mod culture, giving him early exposure in the fashion scene. In 1964, Bolan's career began to take a more serious turn when he met Jeffrey Delroy Hall, who became his first manager. With Jeffrey's help, he recorded a polished track called All at Once. This song, which carried the clean, catchy sound of his idol Cliff Richard, remained unreleased during Bolan's lifetime, but eventually surfaced decades later in 2008 as a rare collector's item. It marked one of his very first professional steps into music. Not long after, Bolan adopted the stage name Toby Tyler. He moved in with Alan Warren, a former child actor who became his second manager. Warren believed in Bolan's talent and gave him a valuable opportunity to get closer to the heart of the music scene. Bolan, always with his guitar by his side, spent long hours playing and writing songs. He also liked to wear a corduroy cap, inspired by his musical hero at the time, Bob Dylan. During this period, Warren arranged a photo shoot for him and even booked studio time, helping him to record early versions of songs like Blowin' in the Wind and The Road I'm On, Gloria. Though one track called You're No Good was submitted to EMI, it was not picked up. Eventually, Warren sold Bolan's contract and recordings for a small sum to his landlord, David Kirch, to cover unpaid rent. However, Kirch had little interest in managing a young musician and did nothing with the recordings. Bolan's determined mother later confronted Kirch, demanding he cancel the contract, and Kirch agreed. The lost tapes from those early sessions disappeared for over 25 years before resurfacing in 1991. When they were finally released in 1993, they offered fans a rare glimpse into the earliest days of Bolan's remarkable journey. These recordings captured the first sparks of the talent that would later turn him into a glittering icon of music history. Marc Bolan's real journey into the music world began in August 1965 when he signed a deal with Decca Records. At that time, his name went through a couple of changes before settling on Marc Bolan. There were several stories about how this name came to be. Some said it was inspired by the actor James Bolan, while others believed it was a twist on the name Bob Dylan. Bolan himself once mentioned that Decca Records had picked it for him. Under this new name, he recorded his very first single called The Wizard. For this song, he had the Ladybirds as backing singers, who would later become known for their work with comedian Benny Hill. The music was brought to life by professional studio musicians, and the production was handled by Jim Economides, with Mike Leander as the musical director. Notably, the recording featured the famous Jimmy Page and Big Jim Sullivan on guitar. The Wizard was released on November 1965, marking Bolan's official entry into the world of recorded music. Shortly after, Bolan recorded two more songs, Reality and Song for a Soldier, both of which carried a folk style that reminded many of artists like Bob Dylan and Donovan. These songs, however, remained hidden for many years and were only given a limited release much later in 2015 on a small vinyl record. Around the same period, Bolan also recorded a song titled That's the Bag I'm In, written by Fred Neil, but this track has never been officially released. In 1965, Bolan started his first serious relationship with Teresa Whitman, but they ended things in 1968 when he met June Ellen Child. Bolan and June quickly fell in love and moved in together just days after meeting. June had been a secretary for Black Hill Enterprises, who also managed one of Bolan's idols, Syd Barrett, whom June had once dated. She played an important role in helping Bolan gain more attention and success in the music world. In June 1969, Bolan released his second official single, The Third Degree, along with its B-side, San Francisco Poet, a tribute to the Beat generation of writers. Unfortunately, neither of these songs managed to make it onto the music charts. After then, Bolan showed up at the home of music manager Simon Napier Bell, declaring with full confidence that he was destined to become a star. Intrigued by Bolan's energy and songs, Napier Bell decided to book a recording session right away. Most of the tracks from this session weren't released until years later. In 1974, on the album The Beginning of Doves, only one song from these recordings, Hippie Gumbo, saw a release at the time. It was a dark and quirky folk tune, but like Bolan's earlier efforts, it didn't find success. Interestingly, another track from this period, You Scare Me to Death, ended up being used in a toothpaste commercial. Later on, in 1982, this song and a few others were re-released with new instruments added on an album that shared the same name. Napier Bell, who managed well-known acts like the Yardbirds and John's Children, originally thought about placing Bolan with the Yardbirds. Eventually, he decided Bolan would better fit with John's Children, who were in need of a songwriter. Although they had some success performing live, their record sales were disappointing. Bolan did write a song for them, Desdemona, which attracted attention but was banned by the BBC because of its bold lyrics. After a chaotic tour in Germany with The Who, he took a step back to rethink his path. During this break, he began to write not just songs, but also fantasy novels and poems. He even claimed he had once spent time with a wizard in Paris who shared with him some secret knowledge. While the truth behind this story is unclear, many believe the so-called wizard was actually an American actor, Riggs O'Hara, with whom Bolan had traveled to Paris back in 1965. With fresh ideas filling his mind, Bolan's songwriting reached a new level. When John's Children faced trouble, including having their equipment taken back by their record label, Bolan decided it was time to start something new. He formed his own band, Tyrannosaurus Rex, bringing in guitarist Ben Cartlin, drummer Steve Peregrine Took, and a bass player whose name has been mostly forgotten. Bolan quickly arranged a performance at the Electric Garden and, through an added melody maker, gathered musicians on the very day of the show. Sadly, the performance was a complete failure, and the audience booed them off the stage. After this harsh experience, Bolan retained only Steve Peregrine Took, transforming Tyrannosaurus Rex into an acoustic duo. Bolan played guitar and sang, while Steve handled various percussion instruments and occasionally played bass. This stripped-down style allowed Bolan to focus on his unique lyrics and melodies. His manager noted that Bolan lost the confidence to perform with electric instruments after the disastrous first gig and chose the acoustic path out of fear rather than necessity, despite Bolan's later claim. As a duo, Bolan and Steve managed to release 3 albums. 2 of them climbed into the top 15 on the United Kingdom charts, and they also had a modest hit with the song Deborah in 1968. They gained a loyal following, especially thanks to support from radio DJ John Peel. A standout moment for the pair was performing at the first free concert in Hyde Park in 1968. Though Steve was later dismissed from the band after a tour in America, the duo had already left their mark, with Bolan's whimsical and poetic lyrics setting them apart. In 1969, Bolan published his only book of poetry, The Warlock of Love. Although critics were not kind to it, the book became a surprise success, selling around 40,000 copies and becoming one of Britain's best-selling poetry books of the time. As Bolan's musical taste continued to evolve, he began adding more electric guitar sounds to Tyrannosaurus Rex's music. He even bought a distinctive white Fender Stratocaster with a paisley design from Syd Barrett. After Steve Peregrine Took was replaced by Mickey Finn, Bolan let his electric side shine even more. Their final album under the name Tyrannosaurus Rex, A Beard of Stars, ended with a powerful track called Elemental Child, which featured a soaring guitar solo clearly inspired by Jimi Hendrix. This moment marked a new chapter, as Bolan's music moved closer to the glam rock style that would soon make him a star. Marc Bolan began to push his music into new directions, looking for something bolder and more exciting. He got himself a vintage Gibson Les Paul guitar, one that had been specially modified, and this guitar became a big part of his fresh sound. It even appeared on the cover of the T-Rex album. Around this time, Bolan made a big change by shortening the band's name to simply T-Rex. He was also working closely with his producer, Tony Visconti, and together, they crafted Ride a White Swan. This song was different from his earlier work, moving away from mostly acoustic sounds and towards a lively, electric style. The catchy hand-clapping rhythm, Bolan's sharp electric guitar, and the strong percussion made the track stand out. Although it was recorded in the middle of 1970, it took a while to climb the United Kingdom charts, but eventually it became a major hit, reaching number 2 by early 1971. But Bolan's creative spark didn't stop there. Around this time, he also developed a growing interest in wearing women's clothing, which made him stand out even more in the rock scene of the time. Encouraged by the success of Ride a White Swan, he expanded T-Rex by adding bassist Steve Curry and drummer Bill Legend. With this new lineup, he created Hot Love, a 5-minute single bursting with energy, full of lively strings, and a memorable sing-along chorus. When Bolan performed this song on Top of the Pops, he wore glitter on his face, a move that many saw as the true beginning of glam rock. His playful and androgynous appearance left a lasting impression on the audience, and the song itself stayed at the top of the United Kingdom charts for 6 weeks. He quickly followed it up with Get It On, a more mature and gritty track that ruled the charts for another 4 weeks. When the song crossed over to the United States, it was renamed Bang a Gong, Get It On, and reached number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. By 1970, Bolan had gotten married his girlfriend June. Later in 1971, Bolan's record label, Fly, released the track Jeepster without his approval. Feeling betrayed, Bolan used the opportunity to leave Fly Records since his contract had just expired. He moved to EMI, where he was given his own label, the T-Rex Wax Company. His new label even featured his own portrait on its logo. Even though Bolan had not supported the release of Jeepster, it still climbed to number 2 on the United Kingdom charts and became one of T-Rex's most celebrated songs. Over time, it was ranked highly by music magazines like Paste and Billboard as one of the band's finest works. In 1972 alone, he scored 2 more number ones with Telegram Sam and Metal Guru, both from the album The Slider. He also reached number 2 with songs like Children of the Revolution and Solid Gold Easy Action. T-Rex's popularity exploded. Their records were selling in huge numbers, and Bolan became the star of Born to Boogie, a film directed by Ringo Starr. This movie featured concert footage from Wembley Empire Pool, as well as scenes filmed at John Lennon's mansion. Bolan, along with Ringo Starr and Elton John, jammed together, making the film a unique blend of concert and fantasy. During this period, T-Rex was responsible for an astonishing 6% of all record sales in the United Kingdom. At their peak, they were reportedly selling around 1,000 records every single day. Despite their success and the many gold records they received, no T-Rex single was certified as a million seller in the United Kingdom at the time, partly because the band's record company did not pay for certifications. Bolan became known for his flashy stage costumes, often wearing top hats, feather boas, and glitter on his cheekbones. There are different stories about how the glitter trend started, but it's widely believed that he first saw the glitter on his wife June Child's dressing table and decided to add some to his look before a photo shoot. Whatever the true story, this touch of sparkle soon became his trademark, and many other musicians and fans followed his lead. During the rise of glam rock, Bolan's friend and rival David Bowie was also making his mark. They had known each other since their early days in the underground music scene. Bolan had even played guitar on Bowie's song Prettiest Star. Over time, their careers often crossed paths, with Bowie even referencing T-Rex in his music. Their connection added an extra layer of excitement to the glam rock movement. In 1973, Bolan continued to branch out musically. He played lead guitar alongside Jeff Lynne on several Electric Light Orchestra tracks, though he wasn't always credited at the time. Later, for his own recordings, he brought in soulful female backing singers, adding new depth to songs like 20th Century Boy, which reached number 3 in the United Kingdom, and The Groover, which climbed to number 4. His album Tanks showed his growing interest in mixing rock with soul, funk, and gospel influences. Even though the single Truck On, Tyke missed the top 10, Bolan kept exploring new sounds. The following year, Zinc Alloy and the Hidden Riders of Tomorrow showed him aiming for richer, more complex music. He expanded the band, adding guitarist Jack Green and new studio musicians, and gave his backing singer, Gloria Jones, a bigger role with keyboards and vocals. However, things started to unravel and the original T-Rex lineup fell apart. Additionally, Bolan's marriage to June was full of troubles. Throughout their time together, he had multiple affairs, including one with singer Marcia Hunt in 1969 and another with artist Barbara Nessum in 1971. Things grew more difficult, and in 1973, the couple finally separated after June discovered that Bolan was involved with his backing singer, Gloria Jones, which brought their troubled relationship to an end. Despite the challenges, Bolan and Gloria continued to be together. A special moment arrived in Marc Bolan's life in 1975. His partner, Gloria Jones, gave birth to their son, whom they named Roland Bolan, although the official birth certificate recorded him as Roland Seymour Feld. Most people came to know him by the name that carried his father's stage legacy. That same year, Marc Bolan made a big decision to leave his tax exile life behind in the United States and Monaco, returning to the United Kingdom. It was a quiet comeback at first, but he was stepping back into the public spotlight. Bolan started performing again with a modest tour, slowly reconnecting with his audience. As he worked his way back, Bolan appeared regularly on the popular television show Supersonic, directed by his old friend Mike Mansfield. He also kept releasing new music. Among these was the single New York City, which managed to climb into the top 15 of the music charts. Bolan had always known how to evolve with the times, and by then, he had begun to embrace the growing influence of disco music. However, changes within his band were also happening. By the end of 1976, Steve Curry, the last remaining member from the classic days of T-Rex, decided to leave. Bolan had to form a brand new lineup and released Dandy in the Underworld, a fresh album that marked a new chapter. Determined to reach younger listeners, he went on a United Kingdom tour and cleverly invited the rising punk band, The Damned, to perform as the opening act. Many in this younger crowd were too young to remember T-Rex's early glory, but Bolan knew this was his chance to capture their attention. Later that year, a new opportunity arrived when Granada Television asked Bolan to host his own show. It was called Marc, and it ran for 6 episodes. Bolan used this platform to bring both well-known and up-and-coming bands to television screens while also performing his own songs. By this time, he had slimmed down and looked much like he had in the peak days of T-Rex. The show aired on ITV in the after-school slot, perfect for a young audience, and it quickly became a hit. In one memorable episode, he was even reunited with Andy Ellison, his old bandmate from John's Children, who was now leading the group Radio Stars. During the final episode of Marc, Bolan welcomed David Bowie as the guest star. Bowie performed Heroes near the end of the show, just before Bolan himself stepped in to close things out. As they played, Bolan lost his balance and stumbled off the stage. He managed to catch himself and grab the microphone with a smile, and although there wasn't time for another take, the moment was left in the broadcast. It became a memorable part of the show's history. Although cars featured in many of Bolan's songs, he never actually learned to drive. He had a deep fear of dying young, always believing he might not live past the age of 30. Still, he owned a few cars, including a white Rolls-Royce from the 1960s. On the night of his passing, this car was being used by the band Hawkwind. Bolan, meanwhile, was a passenger in a Mini 1275 GT, driven by Gloria Jones, as they were returning from an evening out at Morton's Club restaurant in London. After crossing a small bridge near Barnes in southwest London, the car veered off the road, struck a fence, and then hit a tree. Bolan died instantly at the scene, while Gloria Jones suffered severe injuries. Since that day, the crash site has become a place of pilgrimage for fans. People continue to leave flowers and tributes beside the tree where the accident happened. The site, known as Marc Bolan's Rock Shrine, is cared for by the T-Rex Action Group. It has even been featured on television, showing how deeply Bolan's memory still touches people. His funeral took place on September 20th, 1977 at Golders Green Crematorium in North London. His ashes were laid to rest beneath a rose bush, and many famous musicians attended the service, including David Bowie, Rod Stewart, Tony Visconti, Steve Harley, and Boy George. Bolan had wisely set up a trust to manage his wealth, ensuring that his son would have some financial support. Estimates of Bolan's fortune at the time of his passing placed it between 20 and 30 million pounds, a large sum that remains protected in trust. Marc Bolan's influence on music did not end with his passing. He left an influence on many styles, from glam rock to punk and even indie and alternative rock. Artists like Freddie Mercury were inspired by his bold fashion choices, while guitarists like Johnny Marr of the Smiths admired his early sound. Bands such as Susie and the Banshees honored his legacy by covering his music, and younger artists in the 1980s, like Boy George, often spoke of how Bolan's style and spirit had inspired their own paths. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.